This is the Zhiyun FIVERAY FR100C, and it is an awesome light even with some of its drawbacks. And if you want to find out what makes this light so awesome, stick around as we'll be diving into the specifications of this light, the tests that I did and the discoveries I made while doing those tests, as well as what I would use this light for and the pros and cons of this light. Now, if you're looking for something specific regarding this light, feel free to use the chapter markers, although I would strongly suggest and appreciate you watch the whole video to get the full in-depth picture of what I feel about this light. Now, quick disclaimer, this light was sent to me by Zhiyun for me to make a separate body of work, and all the opinions and thoughts I have on this light that I'm saying in this video are my own and they had no control over it. So with that being said, this is a 100 watt wand light, which I can confirm feels like you're holding a little baby lightsaber, which I totally didn't pretend to be Darth Vader with or pretend fight battle droids in the middle of the night in the parking garage. Alright, I did do that, and the only issue is that it doesn't allow you to defeat your enemies, but it does have the following feature. It has USB-C as well as DC charging, with USB-C being able to charge the battery in 2.5 hours and DC in 2 hours and 33 minutes. It's also a full 360 RGB mode, with you being able to control the hue, saturation, and intensity, as well as having CCT mode, and you're able to jump between the values of 2700 Kelvin all the way to 6200 Kelvin, and it's fully dimmable. You're able to jump between modes and control the different values in the modes using the toggle wheel, and it has a TLCI value of 97 and a CRI value of 96, so it ticks off the biggest requirement of any light, and that is accuracy. At the bottom of the light, you have a 1/4 inch mount so that you can put it on a stand or any other support system that can handle the weight of the light. It also has a diffusion cover built into the light, as well as having 6 two-way fans to regulate the temperature of the light. According to Zhiyun's website, you can also expect the following run times on the battery: at 10 watt, 5 hours and 40 minutes, at 25 watt, 2 hours and 10 minutes, at 50 watts, 1 hour and 4 minutes, and then at 100 watts, you can expect 31 minutes of runtime. Although if you get the combo, you'll also get the power unit that allows you to run this light continuously, because it does have that mode. And this light will cost you 219 euros if you just buy the light itself. However, if you get the combo, it will cost 269 euros. I wanted to test out a few things, starting off with the battery. I wanted to see if the battery times provided by Zhiyun's website were going to be accurate. And after testing this light in max mode, 100%, 50%, and 10% brightness, I can say with confidence that the times provided by Zhiyun on their website are fairly accurate. Now, I didn't test how long the battery would last in RGB mode, but seeing as RGB only uses 2 strips out of the 4 strips of LED, I can tell you with confidence that you should expect a minimum of 3 to 4 hours runtime on the battery at full charge. Now, the first thing I noticed when I unboxed the FIVERAY FR100C was that there was no way to shape the light. And the first thing I noticed when turning it on was that it had massive spill. But this got me thinking, how far is the throw of this light at different ISO ranges? So we have the measuring tape, we have our model Carl, we have the light, and we're gonna use false color that's in my camera to see when the light is no longer impacting the subject. Specifically, when we see his hat go completely blue, that's when we know that we have pushed the limit of the light, and that's when we need to measure out the distance. So let's start this test.
Currently we're 1 meter away, we have a decent exposure. We're doing this at ISO 160 with the light at max mode, which is the brightest value of the light. So with that being said, start walking backwards. And stop, 261 centimeters, so 2 meters and 61. Okay, now we're gonna go to ISO 400 and we're gonna repeat the exact same test. The light is still on max mode, and just start walking backwards. And stop, 3 meters and 85 centimeters. Okay. Now we're at ISO 800, so let's go. Right, so we're over 5 meters at ISO 800. So it's safe to say that with ISO 3200, we would get way over 5 meters as well.
Now, having understood the quality of the light, I needed to understand the quality of the shadow. The way this light wand works is that it has multiple LEDs running from the top to the bottom, and their combined strength, their teamwork, is what allows us to have 100 watts in this specific design. And it's also how LED technology is able to use such little tiny little light sources to output great values. While combining little light sources to create one big light source is an ingenious idea, it does have one slight issue, and that is the fact that these little light sources are emitting light from different angles, and that affects the angle of shadow. And what it actually causes is a domino effect in the shadow. So what light manufacturers do to not have that domino effect in the shadows is that they add a diffusion disc in front of their LED technology, because that softens the light because it's super close to the light source, and it can make it look like one cohesive shadow. Now we're going to be testing out this light at 100% in the vertical position and the horizontal position to see if the shadow has any sort of domino effect. So right off the bat, in the vertical position, we can see that the shadow isn't sort of domino affecting. There is a little bit of a difference there, but that's just because the shadow is a lot harsher because of the angle of the light. Now we're going to change the light from the vertical position to the horizontal position to see if that affects anything. Okay, so as I'm changing it, I'm noticing some domino effecting happening here, but I'm not picking that up at all in camera. So the results are in, and this diffusion disc does a fantastic job at eliminating the domino effect from the shadows. The only time I noticed a sort of domino-ishy effect was with my eyes when I went from the vertical to the horizontal position, as I said. And that doesn't matter because your audience isn't gonna see what your eye sees, they're gonna see what your camera sees. So this is a home run. How fast does this light charge? That is the most important thing with anything that's battery operated. On Zhiyun's website, it says a 25-watt fast charger will get you 2.5 hours. Now, I didn't want to test this out using a fast charger, but rather I wanted to use a 10-watt generic adapter that you would get from purchasing a phone. And the results I got shocked me. It took 6.5 hours to get full charge, which means that the light took longer to charge than you would actually be able to use it for. However, using the DC power supply provided in the combo pack, it does take 2 hours and 33 minutes, give or take, to charge. So fairly accurate there. Now, throughout all these tests, I've been putting the light in its favorable conditions, at night or in a studio setup where I can control the light. But I wanted to give it a David versus Goliath moment, and I took it out to see how it would fare against the sun. But first, I needed a test subject.
He's in the sun, so we're gonna start off, first of all, just off frame close to the subject. So putting on the light. In the iPhone, it does something. Now, I don't know if that's actually done anything in camera. It did nothing. It did nothing in normal 100% mode. Now we're gonna throw it into max mode and see if it does anything. And max. So that's normal mode, max mode. You can sort of see it slightly, but you have to be very close, and I don't know if I'm in camera, but you have to be very close for it to do anything in the sun. So when I do split the difference, and I don't mind the highlights being a little bit overblown, from camera distance, I can see it adds just a little bit of fill that makes the image a little bit better. So if you are gonna like split the difference and try to balance out for the highlights in the sun, you're fighting a losing battle with this thing, which I also think with a 100-watt light, it's not meant to be.
Now, after having used and tested this light, here are a few other things that I think you should know. The fans are loud.
They are very loud. But this is in max mode. It took about 3 minutes and 50 for it to spark into its peak.
50% or higher, you've got about an hour, and then below 50%, they only really kick in towards the end of the battery. Speaking of battery, when the battery starts dying, there's no change in the quality of light. It doesn't get dimmer, there's no flickering. In fact, after the battery dies, if you turn it on, at whatever percentage or mode you're in, you'll usually get about an extra minute before it dies again. So if you just need to quickly run and gun and get that last minute and the battery's dead, you could probably turn it on and get the shot. In the future, I'll be using this light in the following 2 scenarios because I believe this is where the light will flourish and give me the best results. Number 1 is studio work, whether it be recording YouTube videos, doing product commercials, doing product photos. This light in a controlled environment is a fantastic tool to have. And then the second scenario where this light is definitely going to be in my kit is whenever I go to shoot out at night or in a low light scenario. The pros is that it is extremely portable. I really like how the light feels in my hand, and I really love this detail is the fact that they gave you a little RGB cheat sheet just above the light, which for me saves so much time because I look at it, see what specific hue I'm trying to go for, and then I can play around within that range. Now on the flip side, the cons are 1, it doesn't have an app, which makes changing settings of this light and shooting by yourself very difficult and inconvenient because you're going to be running around between the light and the camera. 2, besides being able to dim the light, there's no way to control or shape the light. And now, whilst it's too late to add that in, I would love Zhiyun to make an accessories pack that comes with tools for me to shape my light. So as I said in the beginning of the video, this light is awesome, and hopefully after watching this video you understand why. I would give this light a 9 out of 10. If it had an app and more ways to control and shape my light, it would be a 10 out of 10 perfect 100-watt one light. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and follow for more, and check out more videos on the Cinerik YouTube channel. And if you enjoy those, feel free to join the Cinerik community by hitting that subscribe button right now. I appreciate you for doing that. I hope you have, are gonna have, or have had a fantastic day. I love your faces. Goodbye.